Everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ayomide. If you're new here, you are absolutely welcome. On this channel, you're going to find DIY sewing tutorials and also pattern drafting tutorials. So today's tutorial shall be on the making of a shirt collar. We have our shirt pattern here already. This is for the front and this is for the back. I'm going to be putting a link in the description box on the tutorial of this video. So if you haven't seen it, I would advise you to see it because our shirt collar shall be coming from this pattern. Now, to get started with the pattern, we are going to be measuring our neckline. Now, this is my front, and remember I told us in my last tutorial that from here to here, the 2.5 inch is for our button stand and the button overlap. So I'm going to be folding this inward. This line here is my center front. I'm going to be folding it inward, and I'm going to be measuring my neckline for the front. And if you also remember, we took out 1 inch from the shoulder for the front to attach it to the back. So whatever I measure here, I would add 1 inch to it. So I'm measuring my front shoulder, and it is 4.1. 4.1 plus 1 inch we took out from here. So the front is going to be 5.1. Then for the back, I'm going to be folding this part inward because it is for the front. And I'll measure from here up until this point. And my back neckline is 3.1. So the front is 4.1, the back is 3.1. What I'll do first of all is to just rule a straight line of no specific length. Then I'm just going to be marking a point right here. This would serve as our shoulder point. From this shoulder point, I'm going to be marking 5.1 inches to this side. So, and 5.1 inch is my front neckline. So 5.1 inch. And from here, I will measure 3.1. So I have my center back and my center front. Okay. What I'll do next is that from the center front, I'm going to be coming upward by 1 inch. This is because we are going to be creating a curve downward, and if you look at the front neckline, it is not straight, so it is only reasonable that your collar too is not straight. So I'm going to be ruling a straight line here from the center back, just straight, of no specific length. We are still going to be using this line later on, and I'm going to be creating my curve this way. Okay, so the next thing now is to determine the length of your collar. Your collar could be 1 inch long, and what we are drafting now is the collar stand, because we have the collar stand and we have the collar form. So this is what we are working on first of all. We would work on the collar form later on. So to determine the length of my collar stand, you could go with 1 inch, you could go with 1.2 inches, but I'm going with 1.2 inches. So from here now, which would now be my new center front line, I would mark 1.2 inch. From here also, I would mark 1.2 inch. From here too, I would mark 1.2 inch. This is to make it easy for me when I want to connect all of my points together. Then I'm going to be drawing here this way. This line here is not supposed to be straight, so I'm going to be creating a slant this way. Ideally, I'm supposed to measure 1.2 inch from here into a slant. So I'm making a correction here, and then I'm going to be creating the slant. So this right here is not needed. Now, if you look at the front shirt pattern, or if you look at your shirt, you would realize that the collar stand also accommodates the button stand. So what I'll do is to measure my button stand, which is 1 inch, and from this point now I'm going to be marking 1 inch. Remember I said when you are marking the length of your collar, you mark it slant. Create a slant, not straight. You don't mark it straight, you mark it upward a little bit, just slanting your hand. So here now is my 1-inch button stand, and from this new point now, because this is not for us any longer, I'm going to be creating a curve. So this is what I would do. So I'm going to be giving it this curve that the button stand usually have. Okay, so this right here is now our collar stand. Now what we are going to be doing now is that we are going to be going to the collar 4. So to draft the collar 4, I will connect from this point to wherever it matches on this line. So I'm just going to be rolling a straight line. And because our collar stand is not exactly straight, the edge of our collar fold too cannot be straight, because it is only reasonable that the collar fold is also not straight, so that it can be easier to sew on it. So in order to replicate this curve, that would allow us to draft our collar fold, I'm going to be measuring what I have from here to here. I have about 1 inch, so I'm going to be placing that value here, and I'm now going to be drawing a curve. So the curve I drew here looks exactly like what we have here. Now we can go on to draft our collar fall. This here is not needed. So my collar fall, the length of my collar fall, or the height, I'm going to be going for 2 inches. Okay, now I'm going to be adding these two measurements together. This is going to be 8.2. I'm going to be measuring 8.2 from here. Okay, I'm going to be connecting it together. I would also use a dotted line to connect it to this point. What I'll do next is that I'm going to be altering the shape of the collar form. So I'm going to be coming outward by maybe half an inch or 0.75 inch. 0.75 inch. Then rule a slanted line upward this way, and then create a curve. I'm just taking this length randomly, but you could measure up to like 3.5 or 4 inches. So I have about 3.7 inch here. If you want to make it 4 inches, is also fine. Just create the collar fall in such a way that it will suit your style. So from here now, all the way down here, like this and like this, would now be my collar fall. And this is my center back. So we have our collar stand and we have the collar fall. Now I'm going to be tracing these two pieces onto another pattern paper, and you're going to see how they look separately. So guys, I have gone ahead to duplicate my collar stand. I also added half an inch seam allowance, but I did not add to this part because this is the center back and we are going to be cutting the center back on fold. I also have my collar fall already duplicated, and I added seam allowances also all around, excluding the center back. So guys, this is how to draft your collar. I'm going to be indicating that I'm supposed to cut 2 pieces of this and 2 pieces of this also. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut out my collar fall. I cut out 2 pieces of fabric for my collar fall, and I also fused it with fusible interfacing. This interfacing is called paper stay right here where I am. You can use any interfacing of your choice. There's also another one called air stay. There's one called collar stay. So if you want a very stiff collar, I think you should go for a collar stay. So I just cut out my pattern exactly. I cut out my fabric exactly from the pattern with no added seam allowance, because we already added seam allowance on the pattern. Then I notched this area, which we are going to be fixing to the collar stand. So this is my collar fall. I have 2 pieces of fabric. Then I also have my collar stand too, and I cut out 2 piece, 2 pieces also for my collar stand, and I also stay it. Yes, I use interfacing, rather I also use interfacing on it. So what we are going to be doing next is that before then I also notch my collar stand too, to make it easier for me when I want to sew. So what we are going to be doing next is that I'm going to be placing my collar fold. So I'm placing right side of the collar fold against each other. So this is the part that I notch that is going to the collar stand. So I'm going to be sewing from here like this, 1/2 inch all the way and all the way to meet up here, leaving this place open. They're going to be sewing this part to our collar stand. So I'll just go over to my sewing machine now and then sew from here to the wings, to this part, and then all the way down. So guys, I'm done stitching and I gave it a good press. Let me turn it to the inside so that you can see what I did. So this is it on the inside, and I trimmed. You can also notch, but I prefer to trim to reduce the bulk of the fabric. I also trimmed very close at this pointed edge for the both sides, so that by the time I turn it over, that place would be well pointed. So this is the collar fold on the right side. If you want to achieve a well pointed edge, you can just pick a screwdriver of your sewing machine or maybe a scissors and then just push that part out. So this is it. So this is our collar fold. This is the collar fold. The next thing now is that I'm going to be sandwiching the collar fold in between the collar stand. And how do I do that? I'm going to be matching my notch. This is the way the collar fold, the collar stand is going to be. You see this curve is going to be downward this way. So I'm going to be matching up my notches. I'll match up this notch with the notch on the collar stand. I'll just match it up and then pick up the second collar stand and also align the notches, making sure that this curved edge is also aligning. So I will also match up the notches. Then once I'm done achieving that, I'll go ahead, I'll pin it all around, and then I'm going to be sewing it. So guys, I'm done sewing and I stitch from here all the way across and all the way down. I also reduce the excess seam. So what I'll do now is to turn it inside out and then give this collar a good press. So I'll just go over to my ironing board and then iron this collar piece flat. So guys, I've gone ahead to give this collar piece a very good press. Now at this point, you can stop this way and fix it to your shirts or whatever it is you're making it for. Or you can do a top stitch that would run from here and then follow the shape of this collar fold all the way down. You can also do a top stitch that would come right from here all the way down here. If you check most of the shirts you have at home, some of them usually have that top stitch, but it is optional. If you want it, you can do it. If you don't want it, you can leave your collar piece this way. So guys, if you've learned a lot from this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please click on the subscribe button below. And until my next video guys, make sure you have a wonderful day.